Alrighty then. Hello, slot car gang. This is just a little intro, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
An intro to what?
To part 2 of Ian Rice
Part 2 of Ian Rice.
interview.
I bet you a lot of people are going, yay! Or not. Anyway, we had to put this in because the original part 2 was not really, wasn't satisfactory because the camera froze and yeah.
And Ian was like this. And
If you like to
you
see
could
him,
still hear his audio, the voice, but
you'd still hear his
Talking.
wondrous voice,
Yes.
which it is.
yes, you could, but he was frozen.
Speaking about wondrous things, but he was frozen in time. So we, well, actually, Ian suggested
That he
to
can't-
do another one, which involved him revisiting our place here and re-videoing it.
Yes,
So
and that was just a few days or a week before his wedding.
I think so, yes.
Something like
I
that.
do believe so. So, thank you, Ian.
Yes,
Anyway,
thank you very much, Ian.
and because of that, I don't know why it wasn't because of that, but this one went for a longer duration. So, this will be a fresh part 2,
And then there'll be a third.
and there'll be a part 3. So, the never-ending saga of
Ian Rice.
Ian Rice's "This Is Your Life." Anyway, so we just thought we'd put this little filler in at the beginning just to
Let you know what's happening.
because you'll be wearing a different shirt and there'll be different cars and things and you'll be wondering what's going on here. So that's why. Okay. I think that's about all we need to
Yes, that's
tell
about
our-
all we need to tell them.
our
yes.
future audience.
Yes.
All right.
That's right.
Bye now.
Welcome back, Ian. It's
Ah.
good to see you again.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
Now, we were talking before.
Months ago.
Yes. You've heard about Scaletrix for schools in the UK. Do you think that it would be a good idea to bring that into Australia?
Okay. Yes, I've heard of Scalestric for Schools from the UK. I don't know very much about it. It sounds like a great program. Sounds like exactly the sort of thing that I would have loved to have done when I was of a school age. Do I think it would be good to pick it up and bring it to Australia? Absolutely, yes. From what I hear, it's quite a successful program in the UK. They've run multiple years because it's an annual type thing, and it seems to be successful. So much so that they're doing it year after year. So it sounds like it's a very good program. And from what I know about it, it's for school ages 11 to 14 in the UK.
Yes.
And it's for it forms part of the science and technology curriculum within the UK school system.
Well, yeah, basically they design a working scaletric model that has to go run around the track.
And it's way deeper than I ever imagined
Yeah.
it was, because what little reading I have done about it, you see that these kids are using 3D CAD packages, and they get given some baseline files that they can work with, but they can then modify them and then do 3D printing to make their own cars effectively, which is more than I do. So,
and that's developed a lot since last we met.
yeah.
5 months ago.
Yeah.
That's actually, the 3D is going off.
Yeah.
And the quality
So
products that can be done is
yeah. So I think like the chassis components are are 3D printed, and that's where you've got some variability. But they also have some stock components that you buy from as a kit.
Yes.
So things like, a rear axle and some tyres and wheels and a motor and a slot guide and front wheels, and you plug these stock components into the 3D chassis that you've made. You then put a 3D printed body on top, and it's your car. You've designed, you've built
Absolutely.
it.
That's right.
Yeah, if that was available when I was, anywhere between 11 and 14, my parents would never have seen me again.
No,
I'd have been working after school.
You'd be
I'd have been,
sleeping at the school.
yeah, absolutely. How awesome.
Yeah, well, it teaches the kids teamwork and...
Absolutely. We talk about the scientific principles, electricals and mechanicals, Newton's laws of motion and all the good stuff that we're familiar with. But those personal skills are hugely important. So you mentioned teamwork. You have a team of 3 kids, and they've got to work together to produce an outcome, a car. So one of them might be particularly good with the 3D printer software. Another one might be particularly good with assembling everything when it's finished. Another one might be good at doing paint jobs or whatever. Yeah. So they'll understand that they need to bring their own individual strengths to a group result. So teamwork is a very important one, because they're going to experience this when they're out in the workforce.
Absolutely.
I have to be individually capable, but I also have to work as part of a team. And it's not obvious to an 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old. It's not obvious.
And saying all that, there's problem solving, and there's resolution of the problem that you have to sort it out together and work it out. And
imagine the first time they put that car on the track and it doesn't work, and they're going to have to then take it back off the track and start looking at it. They're going to have to analyse, why it's not working. They're going to have to come up with a resolution. They're going to have to apply a fix, and then they're going to have to retest it.
Yeah.
And again, for kids of that age, that logical, structured way of thinking about how to do problem solving, again, is an invaluable asset for them for later in life. And one of the ones that I quite like is the resilience aspect of it. It's a competition at the end of the day.
Yes.
So there's probably going to be some, and again,
It's a competition, absolutely.
Yeah, and
competitive.
Normally with competitions, you have a winner, which means that you have a bunch of people who didn't win, and they've put their heart and soul into their activities, and they come away without a win, and they need to be resilient about that. Of course, we all want to win every race we enter, but you can't, and you have to understand that not winning is part of the equation, and how you deal with that as an individual is very important, for your progress through life. So
build your character.
As
my old man used to say.
It's very real, and this is this Scale Electric for Schools program that's in the UK. It's a little microcosm, isn't it, of the things that you're going to experience in later life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a superb program.
All in one package.
Yeah. Now, clearly, Scale Electric have got behind this. It's called Scale Electric for Schools. It's not.
It's the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not called Slot Cars for Schools. It's called
No,
Scale Electric.
no, they are
So kudos to them.
the company. Yeah.
They've clearly done a really good job with that, and it slots into the UK curriculum, or it's been made to fit in, and so that's a great thing. So could we then pick it up and lift it and copy it and bring it to Australia? It would be nice to think so.
We do have some people that we know over there that could help in some sort of way. But I think we need to home base. We need to put it out there.
Yes.
I'm thinking if I was Scale Electric, I would be wanting a proposal of sorts of how you're going to run it and that sort of deal.
And I think also, you mentioned off camera that in the UK they have the luxury, if that's the right word, of having Scale Electric being a UK manufacturer.
Correct.
That's right.
So it's a small step. Probably Scale Electric might not agree with this, but it's a small step for a UK company to support a UK school's activity. In Australia, we don't have a manufacturer.
No,
we have distributors and we have retailers, but we don't have a manufacturer. But I would still say that seeing as the UK program is established and proven, it would still be a fairly simple idea to pick it up and move it. Who would sponsor it in the same way that Scale Electric sponsor it in the UK? It could be Scale Electric if they thought that the market
Well, they
was
could
important enough.
provide the motors or the you know the parts.
Yeah, the
For it.
all the parts
Yeah.
for it, yeah.
Because
We are part of the Commonwealth. Come on.
That's right, exactly. Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, it would be what's the word? I can't think of the right word. Profitable? No, not really profitable. But it would be in their best interest. It would be in Skelectric's best interest because it's
exposure.
exposing them to in another country, you know, and it's given young people a chance to sort of oh look, check out this, it's Skelectric. So they might be more prone, if they get into the hobby, they're more prone to I'm going to buy a Skelectric car.
Yeah.
Well, you find that Scale Electric, you go slot cars, they don't know what the hell you're talking about here.
No, that's right. Half the time.
And then you say, Scale Electric, and they go, why did you say that in the first place? Because we know what they are. So,
but there's there's also, there's levels of support that you can expect from a supplier. Maybe just supplying some like the plans for the program as a whole.
Or yes,
they don't have to provide parts. I think the way that it's done in the UK is that a school, each team of let's say 3 individuals, each team goes and purchases the kit of the components, and as you get a little polythene bag with the motor, the slot guide, the axle, I don't think they're provided by Scale Electric as part, in that way.
I don't think Scale Electric has parts anymore anyway. I don't think so. I think they're just all.
Oh, I'm sure they.
now.
I'm sure they could go on the factory floor if they wanted.
Well, they could. Yes,
But,
they could. They could.
could.
But anyway.
No, it would be awesome to see it in Australia.
And then we could have competitions, country competitions.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
International.
Yes, international.
You could have
interstate, not
International.
Yeah, you could have regional, state, national.
Yes.
Yes.
If it was done, on a grand scale, yeah.
And the other great thing about that Skelectrics of schools is that kids are learning engineering in a lot of ways.
Well, they are.
But they most definitely are. I remember that when I was doing physics, that was the lesson it was called when I was a kid. The teacher struggled to teach electromagnetism because it wasn't a very visual subject. So trying to explain how an electric motor worked was quite difficult for the teacher to do that with just a whiteboard, it was a blackboard. Blackboard and chalk.
We were there.
And a hand-drawn diagram of the insides of an electric motor.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for them to actually get that across.
Yeah.
Maxwell's law, whatever it is, for electromagnetism. Very difficult. Whereas if you've got something tangible that you can hold in your hand, you put 3 volts into it, and you can see the rotor spin up, and it actually suddenly becomes real.
Mm-hmm.
Getting those foundation level. I'm trying to think of the right word now. Trying to get those foundation level principles established in a child's mind, so you can then build upon that to go on to the next level stuff. Because we talk about the electric motor. Okay, so we use a DC motor here, a brushed motor. The next lesson that the teacher might want to teach might be about brushless motors. You ain't going to teach brushless motors unless you've done brushed motors, and so on and so forth.
And more so now because we have electric cars now, which is all running on. So they're just a smaller version of what's out there now, and they're going to take over the petrol, the gasoline, and eventually. So this is a good stepping stone of going to for an employer in making cars. If you had this basis, you'd be put on the top list of people to interview.
Well, I would actually broaden that out, because I would say any employer would be happy to see that a child has got this on their resume.
Initiative.
Because
yeah,
of the things that we mentioned earlier, you know, the problem-solving skills, the team-working skills, you know, resilience, you know, self-starting initiative, those kind of qualities. If an employer sees that, the employer doesn't care that it's slot cars. The employer sees that the child can exhibit these qualities. They're going to be a much stronger candidate in a job interview situation.
Yes.
You know, if a standard question in a job interview is, you know, tell me about a time when you came up against adversity and what you did to overcome it.
Well, there you go. That would be a perfect example.
I have a practical example, sir, and the conversation goes. Yeah.
And here it is. I won.
Yeah.
You know, anyway.
Or I came third.
That's right.
At the beginning of the day, I was in last place, but by the end of the day, I clawed my way back to third place.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
By doing the following, you know.
By going back to the drawing board and then redesigning and tweaking them, and as you do.
Yeah.
In the world of scratch building, which is another field.
And if they're going into the mechanical field, it's again the same principle. And they can say, well, you know, engineering skills.
Yeah.
And we already know. Well, they don't, but we do. That Slot Shop is actually has school every week. They have a particular class comes from a school, and they go and get a tour through the shop.
Yeah. I've never been there at the same time because I think it's on a different day to when I go slot car racing. But yes, it's something that slot shop do. And yeah, I think there's a bunch of like 10 kids come in, and one of the staff members from slot shop sits with them and says, you know, right, today we're going to be installing a new motor, or today we're going to be refurbing the rear axle because it's got all, you know, it's all got dust and fluff and it's all contaminated. We're going to clean that out and then put it back in clean, and then off we go. And a member of staff does that, sits with them and takes them through that. And that's a program that Slot Shop do on their own. They didn't ask, they weren't asked to do it. They didn't, you know, it's not part of the school curriculum, but that's something that they do. And it would be great to see that expanded. And it would be great to see other retailers do the same kind of thing as well. And if we could get something that was distributor sponsored, even better. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. They're out there, and you find on a personal thing that these what do you call them, mummy and daddy shops, ma and pa shops, which actually rent a place and they have racetracks, are dwindling more so because of the internet, because of the eBay and the online businesses that just deal online because it's easy and they don't have any overheads or anything. So if we can support the shops that are out there bringing people in, racing and doing all that sort of stuff.
Because we don't want to lose any of them.
So be it. We'll be 100% into that, which is what we're doing anyway.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to lose any of them because, I mean, you know, they actually are the ones that have got the tracks. They, you know, that parents can take kids to their during the school holidays or something.
They're the core.
They are the ones that are keeping the hobby alive pretty much. Because otherwise, I mean, how many, you know, unless a parent buys a slot car track, for, you know, set for their kid, you know, they don't get to experience it unless there's a shop that they can take them to.
I think you're absolutely right about the retail shops, the commercial outlets.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're the ones who are keeping the hobby alive.
Yes.
And it's a bit of a hobby horse of mine because if you look at what the manufacturers do currently, they market their products and they do it really well. But what they are marketing is they're marketing their cars and they're marketing their sets, and it's product oriented. What they're not doing is they're not marketing the hobby. Now it's up to it falls to the retailers and the commercial outlets. It falls to them to do the marketing of the hobby.
So Ian, what do you think about the future of slot cars?
Well, I knew you were going to ask that question, so I actually gave it some thought before I came here today. And one of the themes that we have around slot car racing is that it's in decline. We slot car racers, we moan like hell about consoles and tablets, and kids spending all their time in front of those, and it's killing our hobby. And we get very bitter about it. And I mentioned earlier in part one about in Sydney Metro, we've had a real decline in the number of commercial tracks, which is extremely sad. But in terms of the future of slot cars as a whole, I'm actually really optimistic. When I began to think about this and write my thoughts down on it, there's lots of reasons to be optimistic about slot cars going forward. So I'll just rattle off some thoughts that I had. Let's look at the realism of the slot cars you can buy in a shop. You can walk in off the street, or you can go on eBay, or go to a manufacturer's site. You can buy a slot car, and the quality of the paint job and the realism of the model itself is phenomenal. It's as good as a die-cast model, and you couldn't say that 20 years ago. When I started slot car racing back in a long time ago now, the late 70s, if you wanted to buy a Ferrari Formula One car from Scalextric, you bought a car that was basically a 3-piece molded piece of plastic. It had the body stroke chassis, it had the wing, and it had an airbox. And all the components like the motor, the axle, the slot guide clipped in from underneath, because it was just basically, it was a shell. And it was one colour. There were no stickers. It was red. The airbox was white, if I remember rightly. And it happened to look like a bit like a Ferrari. And it was as a model, it was terrible. Nowadays, you have cars that have got glass windows. They've got an interior. They've got wing mirrors. They've got wings. They've got amazing paint jobs. The paintwork is phenomenal nowadays. So just looking at the quality and the detail of slot cars nowadays is phenomenal, and it's gone up exponentially in my time in slot cars. So if that continues, I don't know where it's going to go, because the detail is phenomenal. Photo etch parts is another one, unheard of a while ago. Now, the high-end slot cars, you get photo etch parts with them as well. The next thing that made me optimistic was if you go to any of the major suppliers, so let's rattle a few off: Scalextric, Carrera, Slottit, Scale Auto, Revo, NSR, Polycar, Avant Slot, thank you, Thunder Slot. If you look at their range, individual manufacturers, if you look at their range, the range of cars that they do has grown as well. They don't just do 6 core models and that's it. You like it or lump it until next year, until they release their next 6. If you look at the Scalextric catalogue or the Carrera catalogue, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of cars. Scale Auto as well, Slottit as well. So a number of models that you can get from these suppliers also seems to be increasing as well.
And the different molds, of course, because if you whatever Scale Extra is probably the forefront of cars that they put out. I think they put out 20, 30 a year. All different molds and different. Carrera not so much. They just sort of change their liveries more or less. But you've got other brands which bring in other cars, rally cars, like Avant Slot and Fly, even Fly yes. with the Evo, which is the amalgamation of the Fly shell, which was always highly detailed, and the Scale Auto, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, Scale Auto have released a lot in the last 12, 18 months.
The chassis underneath.
So underneath the Fly Evo, yes. Scale Auto chassis.
So that's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And the next thing is, there's more suppliers now. When I was a kid, it was Scalextric or Fly. that was about it. Now you've got
Revell. They had Revell.
Oh, Revell and Monogram. Yes.
Yeah, Monogram.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I'm just going back in time too now.
Yeah. Polystill was another brand as
Yeah.
well. Yes.
MRC.
MRRC, good one.
Yes.
Stroke Airfix.
They were good quality.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now,
yes.
in recent years, you've had Revo, BRM, Thunderslot, all good products, and again with highly detailed bodies, and those Thunderslot Can-Am cars are lovely, aren't they? They're really.
And they're race ready too.
Yeah.
Like you could probably run them out of the box.
Yeah.
Where they sort of they're upmarket, not classified as toys, but they are. They're all toys, I suppose. But whereas Scale Electric and Carrera are sort of based in that toy category, the other brands are more tending towards
the
racing side of it, which is keeping that alive. Which is
So you have more suppliers, and therefore they are supplying different market segments.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely.
Good for everybody, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Yeah. The next thing I've got is there are now more suppliers of accessories and bits and bobs and what have you. So, the prime example there is Slotting Plus. They do an amazing range of aftermarket, gears, axles, wheels,
Guides.
Yeah, exactly. They do an amazing range. Companies like that didn't exist before. So there's lots of reason to be, positive there. And track systems. It used to be, again, up until recently, it used to be Scale Electric or Carrera.
Yeah.
There were other manufacturers like Artin and what have you, but if you wanted a track system, if you want a track system nowadays, you can go to Polycar, Scale Auto, do their own track systems now.
It's a pity Ninko don't exist because they had a good track system.
Yeah, it was a very, very good. It was a bit abrasive, but some people like that.
On your tyres, but
yeah,
it's grip.
Grip. Yeah,
and they had a digital version of that too.
And the lane spacing was good with Ninko, so you could run bigger cars as well.
Yeah.
But the net movement is positive. We are seeing more, which is great.
Well, there's two fields. You've got the digital side as well. That's
yes.
analog and digital. So you can go either way.
And digital is huge. I've never raced digital, but it's very popular. For the home and in race series as well. I see a lot of clips on YouTube actually about people who've got like Carrera tracks or Scale Electric tracks in their home. They've invited a couple of buddies over and having digital races.
There is I just forget it's a graph in Queensland that's got a timber track that's digital.
Right. Yeah.
Made it himself.
Yeah.
How cool's that?
Yeah.
So it's where all these little engineers came from.
Yeah. So digital, it works in a completely different way. It's quite complex, but actually, the manufacturers have made it work, and very popular. And I think the kids love it because they can change lanes and
it's another thing.
It's a whole new dimension. Because when we're racing on a wooden track, generally speaking, we're on. You're assigned to a lane, and that's it for that particular heat, and you do what you can on that lane. It's as simple as that. But digital brings a whole new dimension: blocking, overtaking,
absolutely.
Undercutting.
It's drawing them away from the TV because you can do all that what's on TV, but you can do it for real.
Yeah.
Fuel.
Yeah.
Tires, weather, all that stuff. You can do.
You can do all of it. Yes.
Yeah. Fuel races you can do in analog as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
there's the lane changing in the.
But as you say, it comes as part of a digital setup. It's there already. Yeah. And the last one I've got on the positives is I think is possibly the most exciting one. We're actually seeing the evolution of 3D printing at this moment in time. Area 70, Area 71.
Yes.
They do a very broad range of car bodies and chassis.
They do a nice HQ.
Yeah, yeah.
Monaro, which I'm looking at.
I think everything they do is actually.
Well,
really
everything
nice.
is, but
Yeah,
it's particularly
that's the particular one that.
which
Yeah.
Slot Shop has actually got exclusive on that one.
Yes, they do.
So if you want that, you've got to go to the Slot Shop. Sorry, but yeah, absolutely. 3D's just gone.
I've got about 5 of the Area 71 bodies in boxes at home, and these are projects I haven't yet started. I mentioned in part 1, you know, I like the model making part of the hobby as well. And I've got the Jag XJC, as it was called, run by Broadspeed, which had Leyland sponsorship, and it was a big old tank of a Group 5 race car, and it was it just resonated with me. And it just so happens it was one of the cars that my dad had at one stage.
Wow.
Not the race version, the road version.
Yeah.
So yes, I've got 2 of those, and I'll be painting one in my dad's colours, and I'll be painting one in the British Leyland Broadspeed colours. And I've got a couple of others that they're just in boxes, and I haven't got round to them yet. So there's also an American outfit also that do 3D printed bodies, and they do at the moment. I think they're focusing on pro. I don't know if I've got the right term, right class here, but the Mustangs and Camaros, basically.
Yeah, that's the 3 Amigos.
Yes,
the 3
that's it. Yes, TA. Yes,
they're bringing out the American muscle. I did hint. What about a GTO Pontiac? You know, and they said, well, it's not out off the page. Because I love a Judge, you know, GTO. But yes, they're doing well. And affordable. They're not trying to make millions of dollars doing it. They're just out there doing it, and to get it out there for people who want to do scratch building, but a little bit, you know, tentative like we are, you know, with soldering and brass chassis and stuff. So they've made it like Area 71, basically easier. Chassis already pre-done. Little pod, put your motor in, blah blah blah, and get it all. And just paint it yourself and blah blah blah. But yes, and they're just 3 guys that put all that out. So
and good on them, you know, because they're doing models that the big manufacturers aren't doing.
Exactly.
So you know, I mean,
and quality. There's some. We were just talking about the schools, and you have a problem, you go back to and that I've been watching their progress, and they've been doing that, and now they've got pretty well the perfect made vehicle that you can just easily build yourself. So my road car that I drive is a Ford Focus RS, and none of the manufacturers do that car. So if I want to have a slot car that is a Ford Focus RS, the only option available to me, realistically, because it's a saloon car, is a 3D printed body. Now I happened to find one online, and I bought the files, and I gave them to a friend of mine who I race with from time to time, and he printed me out 2 copies. And I wouldn't be able to do that otherwise. So again, that's another project sat in a box that I haven't yet started. But I'll be doing 2 of those, one in my road car colours, but the other one in British touring car colours. And I'll take a great deal of pleasure from finishing those off when I eventually get round to them. So 3D printing, it opens up so many avenues. You know, you have to be sympathetic to the mainstream manufacturers, the big manufacturers. It costs a lot to put the tooling together to make a car. Absolutely.
So they can't do it for everything and everyone. They can't do that. So that gap can be filled by the 3D printing.
It's not like they're taking over. They're just filling in the gap. Basically.
And doing it really well.
And doing it for the people, for the slot car community. They're not, like I said, they're not. They're not, you know, charging you through the arse for it. They want more people to engage in the hobby.
So all the things we talked about there, that they indicate to me that actually slot car racing and well, not just racing, but slot cars in general, the situation is very healthy. There's lots of areas where there are a lot of positives. We're always going to be challenged by the fact by the consoles. You know, it's easy to have a console in your room. you just pick up the controller and away you go, and you know, it's as easy as that. With a slot car setup, it's more difficult. That you have to put the track out, or you have to have a permanent layout in your home environment.
It's hands-on. And you've got to look after them. And you've got to, you know, repair. You need to...
Yeah. Maintenance.
Oil maintenance.
Maintain.
Yeah, all that
maintain
main-
them. Yes.
So the consoles are always going to have some advantages that make people gravitate in that direction, and that's fair enough. That's fine. There is a place for consoles, no problem. It's when they eat into the slot car space is what I'm concerned about. And you know, the decline in the number of commercial tracks in most locations is another concern. But on the whole, I think going forward, I think there's a lot to be said for slot cars. It's not just a case of going to a track, putting a car on, and doing that. It's not as simple as that. There's a whole other aspect to it. You know, in part one, I mentioned all the different reasons why people go slot car racing, and model making is one. You know, an outlet for your competitive spirit is another. Camaraderie is another, and there's many other.
Dioramas making.
Yeah. I mean, if I don't have one, but if I was to be building a home track, a racetrack at home, it would be a wood track, and I would have plenty of room for the diorama stuff, because I like that I like the realism of it.
Yes.
So, I'm very positive about slot cars going forward. What we do need to do is we need to encourage the next generation. We need to encourage the youngsters that this is a worthwhile hobby, and this is a good hobby to do. We probably need to persuade the parents as well. So we touched on that a little bit in part one. We need the parents to understand that it's a good thing for the kids to be doing. We need the kids to understand it's a good fun thing to be doing, where they can be learning.